So, do you guys remember when Slay the Spire 2 came out a couple of months back and it was such a huge and smashing success? Very popular with both critics and gamers, ended up being the highest concurrent users for a Steam release this year. Do you remember that, guys? Where IGN gave it a 9 out of 10 for their early access review. Do you guys remember that? See, look at this here. I got it zoomed into the chart. This is from the Steam user reviews. Very interesting information I want to show you guys here. And we're going to discuss why that is here in just a bit. You probably already know if you've seen the thumbnail, and thank you very much for clicking on it and all that good stuff. This is not clickbait, I assure you. 96% positive right out of launch. People were absolutely loving it. And you'll notice that there's been some very interesting dips. But we're going to be talking about this one right here, dated May 7th, 2026, because this one actually has a star. For people that aren't aware, Steam, when you get reviews that are considered a review bomb, it will add a star if it's considered an off-topic activity. That means that the reviews that are being done negatively have nothing to do with the game itself. It doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the game. It doesn't have anything to do with bugs or problems from maybe a recent patch. Nothing like that. These are for factors completely outside of the control of the game. And we're going to be talking about that right now, guys and girls. So we have this article from someone who you might be familiar with if you remember good old Gamergate. Although this is technically a subject that goes pre-Gamergate. These are the old days. This is the pre-Gamergate era. Read the headline there. Slay the Spire 2 had the biggest indie launch in Steam history, but hired Anita Sarkeesian to consult. Now, some of you folks out there will probably be wondering, who the hell is Anita Sarkeesian and why is this relevant? We're going to be getting into that very shortly, but I do want to point out that this had blown apart nearly 2 months after the game had launched. So this could have been something they would have discovered a long time ago if they simply look at the if they looked at the credits of the game, but alas, some certain people are a little slower than others when it comes to researching things, and alas indeed. I will link this article if you want to look at this here. This is off of fandompulse.com. There's Anita Sarkeesian right there. The queen herself, the queen of the grifting space. Like the grifters out there are talking about her nonstop, probably because they're losing traction, they're losing focus, they're not getting the audience that they need to. And this was a perfect opportunity for them to resurrect her from the grave so they can use her as an avatar for their hate campaign. So Anita Sarkeesian is known for a lot of things. Most famously, she is known for running a organization called Feminist Frequency, which we're going to get to in a little bit here. But she does consulting work on select video games and other projects as well. She is noted here having clients such as Devolver Digital, Double Fine, Landfall, Triband, Megacrit, who is the developer, by the way, for Slay the Spire 2, and Ubisoft. So these are some of the different companies she has worked for, providing consulting work. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, a lot of video game companies, a lot of publishers and developers, they will use consulting firms for a wide variety of different things. This is basically to offer various sources of information about, let's say you're making a game like Call of Duty, for example. Like Call of Duty, obviously a huge, big budget game. Do you think those developers, they're all like people trained in military tactics and things like that? No, of course not. That would be ridiculous to suggest that everybody on the Call of Duty team has worked in the armed forces. No, they consult with people like the US military and people that used to, be soldiers and things like that. in order to devise, like, say, the different tactics that you see in the game, and, you know, to consult with the weapons and stuff like that. You know, various things like that. Consulting work can be done for a lot of different things in these games. Now, I have no idea what she was consulted for in regards to Slay the Spire 2, but this is according to Moby Games here. This is a catalog here of the games that she has been credited in for whatever regards or others. There's only a few that are actually listing consulting work. A lot of them are just special thanks and that kind of stuff. So something to consider there. This Among the Sleep says our lovely backers. So that might even be like that she had anything to do with the game at all. You know, maybe she backed a Kickstarter for it or something. I don't know. But that is kind of where her story started with the gaming sphere. She did a Kickstarter all the way back in 2012 to make a series called Tropes versus Women in Video Games. This was a video essay series that she had worked on that was quite controversial and had some very interesting takes, I must say, indeed. In my opinion, not the best work. There was definitely some inaccuracies. Although it is important to note that she was actually a victim of a harassment campaign because of her bad takes, might they be in the opinion of some people. She literally got death threats and rape threats and things like that over a video essay series. Absolutely wild stuff indeed. This is the very first video, which funny enough came out on my birthday back in 2013. That's pretty interesting. Don't know how that would have worked out, but whatever. I don't even remember, but you can see that the comments were completely disabled in this video. From what I recall, there used to be the ability to comment on this video. I would assume she probably turned it off because of the, quoted harassment and all this good stuff here. And, but yeah, so she did this video and she did several other videos. I think these videos were put out over the course of like 3 or 4 years or something like that. As part of this Kickstarter campaign to fulfill this whole, basically video essay that she had. Just to kind of summarize some of the stuff involved here. She was criticizing the role of women in video games in terms of being used as like objects or goals, not really having the agency or power like a male character would typically have in video games. Of course, we know there are several games out there where that's not the case here. There's actually a pretty good video from an old friend of mine. I don't know if he still watches my stuff or not. He should if he doesn't. But it's the old Gaming Goose. And I will recommend you definitely check his video out. He did a very good video that kind of dispelled the notion here. I will make sure to post a link to the description of that as well. It was kind of a bit of a parody as well of the way she did her video. But I digress. She runs like basically a podcast on her channel at this point, mainly talking about films for the most part. Like there really hasn't been any video game talk in many years on this particular YouTube channel. But it's so crazy when you think about, like, if you just search Anita Sarkeesian on YouTube right now, you're going to get all kinds of absolutely insane videos popping up here. Absolutely insane. Of course, we've got some very familiar faces that we are seeing here posting some of the videos in question, even though I might remind you once again, she is not at all relevant in the industry outside of these couple of game projects that she consults on that I have absolutely no idea what that work entails. I'm not sure what her role is in it. I don't even know how much of a role she has, but if you're doing any kind of work on a game project, you are going to be credited regardless of the scope and size of that work. So it's pretty interesting that this is going on. But, it actually is, it is kind of funny that I see Boogie2988 listed here on this H3 podcast highlights, because she is technically the beginning of the downfall of Boogie2988 in a kind of really funny way, because he actually had an encounter with her at VidCon, and she totally made him feel so weak and vulnerable. And this was kind of like in his words. He did a video a long time ago talking about this, and I actually criticized him about it because, whenever he was going to talk to her, he was going to talk to her about his disagreements with her project with the feminist frequency and the video essay and all this good stuff. And none of that absolutely came up at all. Dang, Alpha Mega Sen, that's old school. Jeez, whatever happened to him? But that, I think that encounter that the two of them had ended up making him the lolcow he is today, which is kind of funny. Oh, Metal Torso Gaming is streaming. I'm gonna have to watch him. But I just find it absolutely ridiculous at the end of the day that we have Slay the Spire 2, which is a highly regarded game. It does have some negative reviews, which apparently were mostly from the Chinese language audience prior to recently. And it was mainly because the game had came out in China, I guess, a couple of weeks or so after the initial launch, and they're apparently not as positive on it here, because you could see very positive for the English reviews specifically. And that is only factoring English reviews. 93% of the reviews are positive, which is good. That means that, like you'd expect, these, whatever you want to call them, incels, basement dwellers, whatever you'd like to call them, they are certainly a large contingent of the gaming audience, but they are a significant minority. They do not represent most gamers, but they do have very loud voices, and it is up to the rest of us that just want to play good video games, that want to actually talk about a video game based on, hey, is this Slay the Spire 2 a good video game? Should I play this video game? And then you look at some of the absolutely insane Steam reviews. I'm going to show you some of these Steam reviews. They're absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you can see, like, the actual reviews, the ones that are actually about the game, it's like almost overwhelmingly very positive. A lot of these people have a ton of playtime on this game. So this is not like one of these games where people play for a couple of hours, like, oh, that's kind of fun, and then they just kind of move on, like they... I'm going to just post most recent here. Say, this is the kind of reviews that I'm talking about. DEI game. Why is it a DEI game? Is it because Anita Sarkeesian consulted on it? Fortunately, I've got mostly people that are ranking it positively. Do not buy this game. You know why. Do we? Do we know why? Do we know why you're falling into this sheep mentality? Okay, now this person gave it a negative review, but they didn't specify anything about all this recent stuff. So I can't make any assumptions about why they don't like the game. They just said, once I realized the last character was just a random slot, I got disappointed. Can't wait for updates. Okay, well, not sure what that is. It is still in early access, of course, to keep that in mind. Yep, here we go. We got it again. Yeah, they're really screwing up. Anita Sarkeesian, no thanks. What did Gamergate do to improve the game? Again, off topic. Awful bait and switch. It's a bait and switch, guys, because Megacrit didn't completely announce ahead of time, hey, we're making this new Slay the Spire 2 game, and we have Anita Sarkeesian working on the game. Probably they didn't announce that openly like that because whatever role she served, it was a pretty small role in the grand scheme of things. It's not really worth mentioning. Like I said, people didn't even discover this until it was brought up in the credits. So, like, I'm not a fan of her or anything like that. I really don't give a shit, I think most normal people do not give a shit about Anita Sarkeesian. Try as they might. I will probably give this a rewatch. I haven't watched this video in 13 years. See if my opinions have changed at all about the content of the actual video. But it is kind of interesting that when I disagreed with her video at the time, like most people that did so, it was done out of a good faith. Hey, we think you maybe have misrepresented some of your points in the video. Maybe you got certain facts wrong in the video. Maybe there was like a little bit of omission that factored into your viewpoint here. That if it was divulged into a little more, you'd see that that's not really the case with that point. But it is a fact that there have been certain people online, namely on Twitter and YouTube and other places, that have attacked the hell out of this woman. And she absolutely does not deserve it. For what, a bad take? Everybody has bad takes, and that's okay. If you don't like the take, that's fine to disagree with it. Ultimately, those people that hated on her to that point that they felt it was absolutely necessary to attack her, in an ironic way, they actually kind of proved her right, even though she was initially wrong about her points. And that's kind of insane. I don't know if she realized that would have been the case. Now, I'm not right about everything, of course, obviously. But I guess about some of the sexist claims that she has made in regards to the gaming industry. So, I don't know. I guess, everybody can sound off if you've got things to say. But it was kind of interesting to kind of reminisce about this old stuff, this pre-Gamergate internet culture, and how these grifters have decided to be the online necromancers for today and dig up the old bones of feminist frequency from the grave when it should have just been allowed to rest in peace. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Be sure to check out the video above my head right there. That's the most recent video that I shot. And then on the other corner, the algorithm's going to recommend something that's fire. Probably nothing to do with this, obviously. And don't forget to subscribe in the other corner there. But that's going to be the last line.